Thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening. My name is Joshua Bernadin, and I am honored and excited to have alumni McCarthy here to lead our next Corsair chat. When McCarthy graduated from Umass Dartmouth in 1999, he departed with bachelor's degrees in visual arts and mechanical engineering. It may seem like an odd pairing to most, but McCarthy understood how engineering requires you to craft beauty and precision in every detail. Now, McCarthy is the Vice President of Design Communications Ltd, also known as DCL, an internationally recognized custom manufacturer of specialty products. Through his 25-year career with DCL, he has been involved in thousands of projects with clients ranging from Walt Disney World, Netflix, and Amazon to SoFi Stadium, TD Garden, Madison Square Garden, and Gillette Stadium. Aside from his professional endeavors, McCarthy is on the board of directors for the Society of Experimental Graphic Design and a member of the Massachusetts Business Roundtable and UMass Dartmouth Alumni Association. He works hard to promote STEM education at the state level through these engagement opportunities. Please join me in welcoming Mike McCarthy.
Okay. All right, oh, there we go. Thank you, Joshua. So it's Joshua's last semester, and he, Rachel, might still be on the. There we go, okay. So it's his last semester, and he is graduating with a degree in biochemistry. So congratulations, Joshua. All right, so thank you, everybody, for coming. So when people say to me, what was sort of your influence in your career, and where did your career get started, I say to them, first and foremost, I'm a Corsair. To which they say, what is a Corsair? And I say, well, it's like a pirate, but like a pirate that wears like a hat. And they say, why don't you call them the pirates? And I say, I don't know. Point is, I love UMass Dartmouth. UMass Dartmouth has been a great place for me. As we go over tonight, it was a huge influence in everything that I've done in my career since then. And I think it's a great option for anybody who's looking to come someplace where they can really go down any path they want to go to after graduating UMass Dartmouth. So we'll go through all this today. There we go. Let's turn this on. Hey. So we're going to start here in the present. All right. I'm going to start in the present. Then I'm going to go to the past. Then I'm going to go to the future. Then I'm going to go back to the past again. Then I'm going to go all the way around. And I'm going to talk really fast because I did time this morning. I can get through it, but I have to talk very, very quickly. So this is DCL. I graduated in June 1999. The day after I graduated from UMass, I got a job at DCL, Design Communications Ltd. We were much smaller then. We have gotten much bigger in that time. It'll be 25 years, 3 months from now, it'll be 25 years. So it's been a very long time. Right now, we've completed well over 18,000 projects. We have 300 plus employees. So we're a pretty big firm in what we do. In our industry, we're considered kind of the biggest. We have a few different locations. So Boston, which is really Avon, right up Route 24, we have a 137,000 square foot manufacturing facility. In Boston, we build, it's our headquarters, we do everything out of there. We have an office in New York. If you know New York City at all, it's right in Chelsea, right by Madison Park. We build in Orlando. So we fabricate in Boston, we fabricate in Orlando. And then we have people in Los Angeles, Portland, Seattle, Charlotte, Denver, Austin. We have people all around the country, which is helpful because we do projects sort of all over the country. Notable experience. So I'm going to show a bunch of our work because that's really the best way to understand what we do is to see really some of our projects. Okay. Has anybody ever heard of an amusement park in Florida called Disney World? So Josh has. Okay, so one have. So if you ever go to Disney, we do about 85% of the stuff at Disney World. All right. So if you ever stay off campus and you go in, we did the gateways, Tron. That's like a new thing. If you're down there, we did the Tron light cycles and so forth. But we do like ride surrounds as you're waiting in the line, all that. We do signage, we do sculptures. In fact, my first thing I ever worked on when I left UMass that summer, my first summer at DCL, I worked on the 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea ride. Anybody remember the 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea? It was in Disney a long time ago, and you kind of went on a boat and a squid attacked you, but you lived and came back up. So they had moved that to Tokyo, and we did the ride surround and the queue line and all that for Disney World Tokyo. So I worked on that my first summer. I worked on the Wonder and the Magic, which were the cruise ships. So we do a lot of Disney. Here's more Disney. Ratatouille is like a rat that cooks. We did that big ride. Bucket of Soldiers. So Bucket of Soldiers, if you look right there, you can actually see that's a 3-story hotel. You can see the 2 railings from floors 2 and floor 3. So that Bucket of Soldiers, that's for Toy Story. That's very, very big. And that's something that we'll get into. I know Dean Jean is here from the engineering school. So we'll get into how we use engineering quite a bit as we're building these very, very large structures, some of which are as big as a hotel or a house or so forth. That's Guardians in the Galaxy in the bottom right there. Universal Studios. So really this whole talk is going to be about the combining of art and engineering and how we sort of mix both. Right there, there's a bunch of sculptural stuff, right? There's the Dragon's Keep there. That's sort of a sculptural tree. We hire a lot of sculptors. We hire a lot of artists. We hire a lot of scenic artists, and they do this kind of work for us. In the corner, we have Diagon Alley. That's the Harry Potter world. Harry Potter is a magic kid that fights muggles. That might not be entirely correct, but if you've ever been to the Harry Potter world, it's fantastic. It's very, very cool. So if you are in Universal Studios, I recommend you go in there. But we do lots of sort of one-off artsy pieces for theme parks. SeaWorld. So we do SeaWorld as well. But we do sculptural rock. We do if you look at those surfboards over there, those are sort of faux. They're aged to look like they're older, but they're really new. They're HDU, which is a high density urethane. Then they're clear coated and locked in, but we do a lot of that sort of scenic work, scenic artwork. ESPN Wide World of Sports. So if you've ever gone and you were in a tournament there, one thing that I'll point out with this is we do a lot of now Instagram moments, right? So that's what every place wants. They want some place where people are going to take a picture and say, here's where we want to be, here we were here, and then that picture then infiltrates Instagram and it's everywhere. So here's an example of that. There's my daughter's cheer team. They went down there for a competition, and I was like, you cannot get back on that plane unless you have taken a picture with the entire cheer team at the facility. So there we go. That's her right in the center. But ESPN Worldwide of Sports. So this is one of my favorite projects. So this is SoFi Stadium. SoFi Stadium is where the Rams and Chargers play in Los Angeles. It opened in 2020. This is actually what we did during the pandemic. And what's very interesting about SoFi, first of all, they have 2 NFL teams that play there. They have the Rams and the Chargers. So they really want to separate themselves from permanent branding because they got to switch that over. Furthermore, what stadiums are really trying to do today is stadiums are trying to operate all year round, right? They don't just want the 10 games of the NFL and a couple concerts in the summer. They want to be going all through the year. And so what SoFi had us do was build these giant LED towers. So this LA Bowl piece here is like a 55-foot tower. And everything you see where it says LA, that's all LED. So that can be anything. So for a Rams game, it's all Rams colors. And it'll say, drive in here to the right. And at the end of the game, it says drive out to the left. It sort of updates during the game. If it's a Chargers game, it's Chargers colors. If it's Taylor Swift, it's a big Taylor graphic. Then the rest of the year, the rest of the week, whatever it is, it can be commercial advertisements. And so it can be for revenue. And that's what stadiums really want, is how can we increase that revenue all the time? So if like the Geico Insurance Company has their annual conference at the stadium, it can be the Geico board. And so that's a really interesting concept. Then took that concept to the Patriots. I don't know if anybody ever heard of the Patriots, 6-time world champion. You have, again, Josh has, and you have a little bit. Okay. So took that to the Patriots. You see this kiosk right here, the Enel Plaza kiosk. And I said, hey, here's what's happening at SoFi. they're doing this. And again, we can share revenue on it. We can show upcoming games and events and all the different things that happen at Gillette Stadium and Patriot Place. And they were like, that's awesome. That's great. Let's do 5 for the new plaza. They were doing the north end zone plaza remodel. This was this summer. And so we did a bunch of kiosks for them. They then said, great, let's put them all through Patriot Place. And again, those are interconnected. They share an information system so that they can update and change and work together as a unit. After we did those, they said, hey, great, can you guys do our logos for us? So if you look at the lighthouse there, we did the 2 big logos. Those logos on either side of the lighthouse are, they're about 16 foot tall and about 60 foot wide. So those are sort of that big focal point of the stadium as people enter. If you're there a lot, as I am, you see people taking pictures in front of it and stuff, which is fantastic. We also did the big letters over the scoreboard. So this summer, the Patriots put in the largest scoreboard in the NFL. A group called Daktronics did it, and we work with Daktronics quite a bit. In fact, anytime Daktronics wants to do something that isn't square, they come to us and we help them how to figure it out. And so that's what we did with the Gillette letters. If you see all those black panels, that is the exact same material that they use for the scoreboard. Those are LED panels. And so those letters are fully dynamic letters. They can be, you know, an American flag. They could be a football going through it. It can be anything. It's like a giant television screen, just as is the LED board beneath it. So that was a pretty exciting project for the summer. A lot of engineering goes into each one. For instance, that Gillette sign, the middle of that Gillette sign happens to be over an expansion joint, the expansion joint of the stadium. And that's just where it had to fall. And so we had to figure out how to have everything sort of open and shift and so forth behind it, to which I was like, really? That's where the expansion joint had to be? But nonetheless, that's where it was. Okay, New York Islanders. So we do a lot of training centers. This is the training center for the New York Islanders. This is in Long Island. I know we have a lot of engineers here and maybe watching on Zoom. So interesting science story here. It doesn't look it in this picture, but we put that big Islanders logo in the ceiling. That's a thing in hockey. They want their logo in the ceiling. They used to have their logo on the floor and you couldn't walk on the logo. It was superstitious. But then as space became premium, they said, let's just put it on the ceiling. So that's very popular in the hockey world. And so it's this mahogany ceiling, wood ceiling, that surrounds this logo. We figured out how we were going to build it. We talked to them all. Great meeting. Showed them the drawings. We're walking out of the meeting and they said, oh, crazy about the temperature change, huh? What? Like, oh yeah, we didn't tell you? The room's kept at 62 degrees all day, except for 10 minutes at night. It goes up to 110 degrees to burn off the sweat. Is that going to be a problem? So I was like, A, gross. B, that's going to be a huge problem. Does anybody know why that would be a huge problem? That's exactly right. You could get a job with us. Expansion and contraction is exactly the problem. Wood and plastic both expand and contract, but at like different rates. So if you all of a sudden like jack up the temperature to, let's say, burn off the sweat or something, that's going to be a huge problem. So what we had to do was we had to put each one of those graphics separately on a slotted system so that it can go up and down and up and down and so forth. So in our art, there's a lot of engineering. There's a lot that goes into it because if you didn't do that, if that whole thing just sort of expanded, it would have popped off the first day, which they would not want. TD Garden, oddly, I was just there this afternoon, but we do everything at TD Garden for the Bruins and the Celtics. Here's more Bruins. There's another logo up in the ceiling that's in the Bruins offices. We do a tremendous amount. The sports market for us has been really, really big over the last couple of years. Here's Polar Park in Worcester. I don't know if anybody's ever gone there, but it's a great place to catch a game. Okay, T-Mobile Center in Kansas City. Unfortunately, Kansas City Chiefs just won the Super Bowl a couple months ago. They had a parade. So those letters, those are giant letters, again, back to those Instagram moments, all right? Those giant letters had to withstand hundreds of drunk KC fans, right? So everything we build has to be really strong. Not that the KC fans would like get drunker than us or anything, but you know, they probably do. So that thing just gets barraged with fans and people hitting it and climbing on it, little kids. So anything we build needs to be really, really strong. This is a soccer stadium. I'm not a huge soccer fan, but a lot of people are. One of the things that I like about this, though, and that I want to kind of push to some other stadiums is, see where it says goal, goal, goal? Those are all LED boards. So those and those light rings, that's all dynamic lighting, but that dynamic lighting is connected to the score. So when they score, that whole place goes nuts, right? The whole concourse goes crazy. So if you're out getting a beer, everybody knows you scored. Now in soccer, it could be like a 0-0 tie for the whole game. So I don't know, maybe it doesn't ever go off. But nonetheless, if they did score, the whole place would go nuts. So one of the things that I do is often I'll go and I'll show our work to different teams. So the week before last, I was in Dallas and I was meeting with the Cowboys. And then I went to DC and I was meeting with the Commanders, who used to be the Redskins. And I'll show them sort of some of these other things that we're doing. And that kind of prompts ideas of something they might want to do. And really those NFL teams and hockey teams and so forth, they're a very closed group. So if you can share some of those ideas with them, they certainly like to see it. Orlando Magic, we're doing a lot of training facilities right now. In the news, if anybody listens to sports radio, the NFL players just graded their own teams and they graded their own training facilities. That's good for us because they gave them really bad grades. And hopefully all those NFL teams want to upgrade their training facilities. In fact, we just got the Atlanta Falcons. So we'll be doing the Atlanta Falcons training facility and it's beautiful. I mean, what they've done there is going to be absolutely gorgeous. But this is the Orlando Magic facility. Don't gamble, but if you do gamble, this is the DraftKings headquarters up here. So we do a lot of corporate headquarters. So for any of you students, the reason we do these corporate headquarters is because they want you, or the you from like 2 or 3 years from now, to come work there. They want that to be a slick looking place where everybody's going to come in and say, oh, this place is awesome. Not only will I work here, I will come into work, which is going to be a whole big thing. But they want you to come into the office and be there and be part of the community and so forth. And so they will make as cool an office as they can. So this is the DraftKings headquarters. We'll see some more corporate headquarters coming up. I know a lot of you probably are either from Rhode Island or go through Rhode Island. You're from Rhode Island? But you know a lot of people work at Hasbro. Well, that's actually moving. So they're, I think, going back to Pawtucket. This is in Providence, but we did a big giant Hasbro spinning cube on top of the building there. And that has a motor underneath that moves, which is dynamics, because we're going to talk a lot about statics. That's dynamics. US Open. So if anybody likes tennis and you watch tennis, this is where the players come through. They sort of film them as they're going out to their match. But we did the US Open a couple years ago. Sony headquarters. So we just actually did more of the Sony headquarters in Los Angeles. But this is the New York one. Same deal, trying to make like a really cool corporate area where people want to work and want to be. So that's a big part of our business. NBA. We did the NBA headquarters. So I'll point out this big logo. This picture, because it's a close-up, doesn't show how big that thing is, but that thing is like 20 feet, right? Probably like 17 at least. Very, very large. New York, very, very small. Doors in New York are very small. Elevators in New York are very small. Everything about New York is super small. And so we had to do a tremendous amount of planning to figure out how to get that piece up into, that's really the commissioner's office. And we ended up taking off the roof of the elevator. So that's how we did it, which is not the first time we've taken off the roof of the elevator. We have actually done that many times, but it requires a lot of planning. So that's a big part of our business. Planning, 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 and then do it. So NBA. Anybody here Netflix? It's like a streaming service where you can watch stuff. You've heard of Netflix. Okay. So we do a ton for Netflix. I have a couple Netflix things in here. This is for the Emily in Paris season 3 premiere. They want to do it at a theater called the Paris Theater. And it's a very famous theater in New York, and it has a canopy. And they said, could you build us a very big, doesn't look big in that picture, but it's very big in real life, Eiffel Tower that sort of lights up pink and sparkles and so forth. Put it on the canopy that says Paris, and then make the words that said Emily in. So it says Emily in Paris. And I haven't seen the show, but I assume that's Emily. Can anybody confirm that? You confirm that is Emily. Okay, so there we go. And it rained that night, but we made our stuff waterproof, so it was okay. All right, don't smoke. But if you do, you can make an entire sculpture out of cigarettes. So this is a portrait of the actress Natasha Lyonne. This is for Netflix. I guess she was in a show called Russian Doll. I have not seen it, but I guess she smoked all the time in that show. And so they had us make an entire portrait out of cigarettes. So you can see that Zach is working on that. Those are all cigarettes. Okay, so we do some really cool artistic stuff. And that's why we hire artists, because as you're going about that and as you're going to make it, does it look right? Is it quite right? Is it not fitting? When we hire artists, they sort of have that eye to figure out if this is working out or not working. Okay. This thing will either creep you out or you'll think it's awesome, depending on how comfortable you are with how you look. This is a 17-foot LED head. So what happens is you walk around into the back of this thing and you sit down and 32 cameras take pictures of every angle of your face. Then you become the LED head. So if you're very comfortable with how you look, that's a great idea. If you're not, maybe you shouldn't do this. What then makes it more fun is at the end of the day, it has wheels on the bottom and it spins out and it looks at the people of Columbus as they walk by. So it just cycles through all the people who had their head done. So again, maybe to you, that's wonderful. You would love to have your head scanned and then have it just cycle through the people of Columbus as they walk through all day. I went to go see it with my family. The day we were there was a cheerleading competition and there were all these cheerleaders just going in all day and they're very happy. They loved it. So super cool if you're ever in Columbus, Ohio. This is a Coke bottle. So we did a big giant 30-foot Coke bottle outside the Coke headquarters in Atlanta, Georgia. If you're ever in Atlanta, this is in Centennial Park. What I want to show here, see this corner slide? That's a prototype. So we do a lot with prototypes. With this, they were doing a feasibility study to say, can we build it? Can we not build it? Will it work out? And so the first thing that we got paid to do was to build that prototype and make that prototype. And so sometimes we'll build a section, sometimes we'll build one letter, sometimes we'll make a half of a piece, and it can show people what it's going to look like. These days, everything's done on the computer. So people have drawn everything in the computer, but they haven't seen it in 3D, which is different than holding it and feeling it and looking at it and seeing it in the light and so forth. So we'll build prototypes for that means. Okay, this is a cool thing, but this is my favorite engineering story. Okay, so this is at Northeastern University. It's a tribute to a guy named Bernard Gordon, who gave a lot of money to Northeastern University. This was a number of years ago. So those are not LED screens, those are all LCD screens, okay, which is a small difference, but it is a difference in terms of how much heat is generated. So imagine those are all like televisions, all inside those arch. And then it's this sort of aluminum cabinet that goes around it, and it's all weather tight, it can't get wet, right? So it's a weather tight aluminum cabinet. And those televisions generate a ton of what? Anybody know? Heat. Heat is not our friend. So if it's like the summer and it's 100 degrees and it's blasting sun down on that aluminum arch, not good. So we had to find a way to cool it. They didn't want fans in it because really the art of it, the beauty of it is that design all around it. So we stole air conditioning from the building next to it, right? This is like, in my mind, this is the closest we'll come to like a Breaking Bad heist. So that building right there, not an exciting picture, but that gray building, underground, we took the air conditioning, it comes through, it cycles underground, up through the awning, back down, and back into the building before anybody even knows it's gone. So we actually stole the air conditioning from the building. They totally know we're doing it, so it's not really stole, but for the purposes of the story, it makes it sound much more exciting. So that's one of my favorite engineering things. This thing's cool. So this is very Avengers kind of stuff. So this is Force Point. It's a computer company, and it's all these big glass panels, big diagonal clear glass panels. And what happens is you walk up to those panels okay, perfectly clear. It sees you coming. It shoots an electric pulse into the glass. That electric pulse hits a special film in the back of the glass. That film becomes opaque. Everybody know what opaque means? Can't see through it. Then a 4K projector kicks on. HD projectors kick in all around it. And there's a LiDAR scanner up at the top that's tracking your finger. And it's like, hey, how you doing today? You say, boop, 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 boop. Then another one comes on, another one comes on, another one comes on. So it's a very cool thing, all done through projection mapping and gestural sensing, which is something that we're getting into more and more. Here's another big tech thing. Anybody ever up by Somerville, Massachusetts? So this is a project, this is Assembly Row, which is sort of like a mixed-use development shopping area. So this big printed area, that's a parking garage, all right? We wrapped an entire parking garage in like a screen, a mesh screen. So if you're in the garage, you can see out. To be honest, it's not terribly different than this. See how like we can tell it's getting dark out kind of through those? It's very similar to that. So that mesh screen goes all around, wraps it. And then those three heads, not me, by the way, just happens to look like me. Those three heads are sticks of LEDs, right? Each LED is on this one little slat. Then there's a slat above it, and a slat above it, slat above it. Same thing, if you're inside, you can see out. If you're out, you can see in. And then this group, which is Federal Realty, they wanted to connect with the community and they wanted to give back to the community. So what they did was they said, these heads are just going to be public art. So if you're a digital artist, I don't know if there are any, I think there were some art CVPA people signed up, your CVPA, or maybe watching online. If you're a digital artist, you can say, hey, I would like to submit to have my work on these heads. It's called The Conversation. And it really just shows community level digital art and is a canvas for those artists. It doesn't show ads or anything. It's just for art, which I think is fantastic. Okay, this is a 40-story hotel in Hollywood, Florida that is shaped like a guitar, and we outfitted the entire hotel in LEDs. Okay, so the entire thing is covered in LEDs. Anybody know how we attach the LEDs? Ropes. We went over the side of the building with ropes and put them in. Just spelunk down and put them all in with ropes. So we did not do it when it was windy out. But then that becomes like a big television screen. It shows like Aerosmith. For the Super Bowl, they had the Super Bowl in Miami right after that. There was a big giant football that spun. It can really do anything. And then there are light cannons. You can see those strings are just light cannons that shoot up into the sky. So not great for the people that live near there, but for us, it was very fun. This is projection mapping again, right? So this is actually in Quincy, home of J.C. Petrangelo. This is in a garage in Quincy. So this is a very public setting. This is a sort of aquatic themed projection that's all gestural sensing. So you can see there this kid running. That kid runs through, all the fish scatter. There's a squid and you can chase the squid and the squid goes away and shoots ink and so forth. So it's tracking your body movements and then the projection works with whatever your body does. So we're getting into more and more body movement stuff all the time. And this is another thing that when I go to these different stadiums, I talk about, because the beauty here is if that kid runs into that wall or scratches that wall or whatever, fine, it's just drywall. We can fix it, we can paint it, we can do whatever because the projector is up there and out of harm's way. So I'd like to get these in the concourses of some stadiums. Okay, engineering. So Dean Jean is here. We're going to talk about engineering. We do a lot of engineering. The way that we really do our engineering and share our engineering with everybody is through shop drawings, okay? So here are some examples of our shop drawing. If anybody's interested, I have a 50-page set right here. So JC, you can read these after if you want, okay? And so our shop drawings tell the story of what we're going to do. So in our engineering process, we figure out how we're going to make these designs, okay? Then we go through all the structural engineering, wind loads, all that. We'll get to that in a second. But we figure out how we're going to do it. The engineers will talk to the fabricators and they create shop drawings. Those shop drawings then go to the project team, which is going to be like the general contractor who's building the building and knows how it gets attached. it's going to be the architect, it's going to be the designer, it's going to be the owner, whoever owns the building or whatever, and they're going to approve those shop drawings. And then those shop drawings are going to come back to us, and the same shop drawings that the team approved are going to be what the men and women in the shop are going to build from. So it's all one set of drawings. We're all under one roof. The fabricators are next to the engineers, who are next to the project managers. And that is really sort of the main set of how we're going to do everything. So it is shop drawings that we produce. Here's some examples of some fun ones. This is actually the set I have here. This is for a 64-foot LED ribbon that we built for the Dallas Cowboys e-gaming unit, Complexity. That's what the shop drawings there are for. I was doing a presentation there a couple weeks ago. If you see 3D, that 3D was done in Inventor. We generally use AutoCAD for everything. And the reason we use AutoCAD, one, it speaks very well to other programs that we use. But two, general contractors use it, architects use it, the other people that we work with use it. So it's very easy for us to communicate with them models and so forth as we go back and forth. So AutoCAD is our favorite. Very expensive, but it's our favorite. There's the first page of the guitar. I mean, you can see there's a tremendous amount of information. Our drawings are sort of combinations of mechanical drawing, engineering drawings, illustrative drawings, all sort of rolled into one because we're telling the story. So we do more with labels than an engineering drawing might do, but they're also very finely dimensioned as well, so people can build. Okay, engineering concepts. These are some of the engineering concepts that we use all the time. How many engineers do I have in this room? Oh my God, I can feel the brain power. Statics. You guys taking statics? Yep. Our whole life is statics. Okay? So moments, forces, everything was statics. I remember taking a statics exam, and then at the back, there was like an extra credit question. And somebody was like, all right, well, what if there was like an 18-foot concrete ball on top of a giant upside down triangle on top of a rod in the ground? What would be the force at the bottom? To which I was like, why would anyone do that? That is very stupid. Fast forward to now, people do it all the time. It's all we ever do. Giant things on little tiny bases. So if you think that is not realistic in statics, that is what everybody wants to do. But statics is really the core of what we're doing. That's like our main sort of world, including wind loads. We build a lot of things. They go very high up. We do pretty much all the big rooftop letters in Boston, New York, so forth. Wind is a huge factor for us. I hate the wind. I listen to the wind now. I live right next to Patriot Place, and I listen to the wind just battering stuff. I hate wind. But wind blows everything down, so we have to have everything to be very strong. Each city, state would have its own wind load regulations that we have to follow. Wind is a huge deal for us. Yield strength, material yield strength. Does anybody know what our favorite material is? We have one material that we love more than anything else. Any of you engineers, can you guess what it is? What are you going to say? Steel is not our best friend. Concrete, also not our best friend. Aluminum, or if you're from Britain, aluminium. We love aluminum. Anybody know why? It's strong and light is the main reason, because we're making big things that we're hanging from the sky and so forth, but it also does not rust. So aluminum is our best friend. The vast majority of everything that we build is out of aluminum, right? Thermodynamics. We told our story about Northeastern and the heat transfer. We do a lot of heat transfer, a lot of get that heat out of that and cool that down. So there's a lot of thermodynamics. Electrical, everything we do, not everything, lots of what we do lights up. And so it's a lot of wiring. These days, actually, a lot of it is low voltage wiring. Most of it is low voltage wiring, but still it is electrical. It's running wires. We do a lot of soldering, all those kind of things. So it's very heavy electrical. And CAD drawing, right? We talked about AutoCAD. AutoCAD, Inventor, we really go for the whole Autodesk suite. And I will be honest, I think most people do. SolidWorks is huge. At least 5 times a year, somebody comes in an interview and they're like, you should switch to SolidWorks. I'm going to switch you to SolidWorks. I understand SolidWorks is great for a lot. For us, with our work for the engineers, with the architects, we stick with AutoCAD. Artistic disciplines for our CVPA friends, okay? Because we have the art and we have the engineering, we have both of them. Sculpture, your sculpture. Oh, I know who's going to work for us. So we hire tons and tons of sculptors, okay? Sculpture majors are really our bread and butter. Most of our fabricators are sculpture majors. Welding, just again, knowing if something's right, looking at something and saying, that ain't right. Even if it's technically is or whatever, just knowing that it's off. It's that artistic eye. But we hire mainly sculptors. And so if you like working with your hands, we are a great place to be. If you like being surrounded by other artists. Sketching. Whenever we're figuring out how to make something, we sketch it, we draw it, right? That's how we sort of operate. We sketch and we draw and we say, oh no, have it come like this and have the end be like that and have it connect here and so forth. So sketching is huge for us. Just about everybody at DCL, except for a handful of engineers and maybe the accounting people, are artists. And so we can all sketch. That's how we talk. The pumpkin contest at Halloween is exquisite for jack-o'-lanterns and so forth. Graphic arts. So if anybody here is in, it takes graphic arts, we do a lot with graphics. We have a whole sort of division that we'll talk about in a little while that does interior work. And so there's kerning and leading and fonts and type work. We do a lot of what is traditionally graphics kind of stuff, including art file processing, right? We use just about everything. Oddly, our main art program that we use is Corel Draw. Anybody ever hear of Corel? You like Corel? Yeah, because it speaks to everything. We like things that can talk to everything else, and Corel can talk to everything else. And so we use Corel primarily, but we also use, we get all our files in Illustrator, InDesign, pretty much any vectorized format we can get and speak to and then send out. Painting. We do a lot of scenic painting, a lot of sort of art painting. We have people sort of faux finishing all the time and working with different colors and metal finishes. So we hire painters. Tinting, color matching. We have a full-time tinter. So if you like making color, we literally have somebody that all day long matches colors. They match something called PMS colors. Anybody know what those are? Not funny. Pantone matching system. And so the Pantone matching system is a very well-known matching system where you say like PMS 293C or so forth, and that's a very exact form of red. And we need to match that very exact form of red because it is a logo and it's somebody's brand color. And you know, back to the stupid Chiefs, they have a very certain type of orange, right? Like an orangey red. It's very different than say the Cardinals red. So colors are very important. Okay. So now we're randomly going to go to the past. And when we were talking about this, Nicole said we should cover where sort of I came from and how I got to where I am now. And so that is the next section. A passion for the arts. So like many artists, I was born with a passion for art, emotions in my soul that I needed to express. And I could only do that through art. So if you look at this, these are two mountain bases, and there's like a helicopter that comes out of this one. Then the jet's coming down. Then that parachute dude thinks if he can make it to the water, but oh, there's a shark. This is the kind of thing that I would draw all the time when I was in 4th grade. So this is really where my passion for art came from. Lots of mountain bases. Why we would make the two bases directly across from each other if we were enemies, I don't know. But in my world, that's what we did. Then I started drawing superheroes, right? And I drew Superman, and it was the early 90s, so I drew lots of Wolverine, and I drew Ninja Turtles, but these weren't the Ninja Turtles that had like the blue, orange, purple, and red masks because I'm an artist, not a sellout. These are when they all had like the real red masks like an artist would draw, okay? But I would just draw comic books and comic heroes all the time. Now, this was the 90s and things were different. Society was not as evolved as it was today, so I had to hide this so that no one thought I was a terrible nerd. Fast forward to now, when very cool people like Aaron Carrington come to my house, we openly talk about comic books, right? And comic book characters, and it's accepted with very cool people. except for when somebody like JC comes to my house who still looks at me like I'm a nerd. So, but I used to draw comics all the time. I love Superman. Superman was my favorite. I wanted to be Superman when I grew up. Oh no, but I really look like Lex Luthor. So that kind of sucks for me. Okay, here's what UMass Dartmouth gave me. All right, and really, I am so grateful for UMass Dartmouth. It gave me a ton of things. Freedom of course selection. So when I was looking at schools, I came up with this plan that I was like, hey, I want to do art, but I also want to do engineering. Can I do it at UMass? And they were like, yeah, probably. That should work. Come on down. And so I did. And so I went here and they figured out how it could work. And I had to take all these different classes. As I mentioned, I did a double major. The big challenge of that is CVPA in the engineering school, they don't care when each other schedules their classes. Like there's no overlap there, right? So, you know, everybody schedules the classes Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday. They can't be worrying about when the art school classes are. So the overlap and trying to negotiate that with all different classes was really, really hard. But my advisors helped me quite a bit with that. Foundational training in artistic skills, sketching, figure drawing, all those things really help me. As I said, we sketch all the time now. That's how we kind of talk, is in sketching. Color theory, right? We were just talking about PMS colors and so forth, the color theory and understanding how colors work and understanding like, actually, we might need to add blue to that. Like, how could that become more red if we add blue? Well, color theory. Professors ready to go the extra mile. So when I was here, and I'm sure this is still the same, our professors were great and they would work with you. I remember sculpture professors coming on like a Saturday and working with us as we were all working on our sculptures. They did a ton with us, even outside school hours. And engineering professors were always sort of in a project or a group, and they'd be helping us as well. So the professors were excellent. They really, really gave a lot of themselves to the students. Foundational engineering understanding. Back to statics, right? I mean, you have to learn how the world works and how physics works and how everything operates and yield strengths and material strengths. And when you have that understanding, then you can go from there and build on from there. And if you're a student right now, that's what you're learning. You're learning that sort of foundational engineering understanding. Introduction to manufacturing. One of my favorite classes that I took was literally called Introduction to Manufacturing. And we learned about plastics and how we make stuff, blow molding, injection molding, rolling, like rolling big metal, you know, how that gets done for drums and so forth. And I loved it. I really liked that class a lot. And I was like, this is the kind of engineering that I like best. And then I went into custom manufacturing. So that worked out good. Okay, classes are one thing, but UMass Dartmouth groups and extras. So for you students, you have to take your classes. Those are your requirements. That's how you get through. Any groups and extracurricular activities you join, that will help sort of round you out. And that will teach you stuff that you didn't even know you wanted to be taught, okay? The extra stuff that I did at UMass was as important to me as the actual classes that I took. Things like ASME, that's the American Society of Mechanical Engineers. There's also one for manufacturing engineers, right? And so ASME, we built a mini Baja car, which was awesome. I wasn't on the team that did the mini Baja car, but I was like sort of part of it and kind of went through it with them. That was a fantastic experience, right? Very hands-on. Building robots. I did robotics here at UMass. I was on a robot team, which was really just like me and another kid. But nonetheless, we were the robot team, and we did sumo robots. So like this robot competition where you had like a ring, and it was a plywood ring, and you had to crash the robots into each other and push the other one out. And so what me and this other kid did is our robots, we drilled track spikes into the robot's legs and made it really heavy, so it stuck into the plywood. And it was a super good idea, but they disqualified us. So I was like, well, you should have thought of that rule before you held the competition. But during the building of that robot, I went into the UMD machine shop. I don't know if you guys still go into that. Learned about tolerances, learned about machining, using the lathe, drilling and tapping, putting track spikes in the robot, all those different things. We get to learn how to be very hands-on and use the tools and actually build stuff correctly out of metal and what have you. So as a sculptor, in sculpture, I was doing welding. It was mostly stick welding, but nonetheless, we're welding with metal and so forth. So I had a pretty good metal background before I went to someplace who loves aluminum. So it worked out really good. I had a metal background. Theatrical set construction. At the time, there was a class you could take that was called like theater or something, and everybody took it, especially football players, because it was an easy A, which is not a bad theory, by the way. If there's like an easy A, like not a bad idea, like you should take that, and it like pumps up your GPA. So everybody took theater, but theater, we built the set, and you know, a play opens, right? Like it's April 5th or whatever, and it has its start date. And so we had to have that set done by the open of the play, like end of story. And really, it was a crash course in project management. What do you got to do? Who do you have to help you? Well, how do you got to build it? What do you got to buy? When do you have to be done by? Whatever bumps in the road come up, doesn't matter. That show's opening, like end of story, you have to be done on time. And so that turned out to be really an introduction to construction project management, which is kind of like what we do now. So looking back, that was another sort of foundational thing that I did. Also got an A. So that worked out really good, right? Because everybody got an A. Okay, that is an actual picture of me playing football. Now I know you guys, like every single game you play in, have like 18 million pictures of you. But in the 90s, like that is very rare to get, okay? I did not play any sports in high school. I wanted to play baseball, but I got cut because I couldn't hit, run, or throw. And so my dream was to always play football. So the first day of college, the first day I showed up on campus, I went into the athletic center and I went upstairs and I talked to the coach, Coach William Kavanaugh, and I said, hey, do you take walk-ons? And he looked at me and he was like, hey, well, you know, what do you play? And in my head, I'm thinking, I've only kind of played like Tecmo Ball, which was like Madden, but I didn't play anything. And he was like, yeah, whatever, fine, go get a helmet. And so he allowed me to be on the football team. And I was terrible. And they beat the shit out of me. Like just killed me. And so I went through every practice. I worked really hard. I ran sprints after practice. There was a coach, Coach McCoy, who like worked with me after practice. And I worked and I got stronger and I got faster and I worked. And that year we went to the NEFC championship and we played Union College. And do you know how many receiving yards I had in that game against Union College? None. I did not get in that game because I was awful, right? I would only get in the game if it was like 60-0 with 2 minutes left. That was the only time I would go in and I would sort of close that mother out, right? So that was my role on the football team. But it was really one of the greatest experiences that I've ever had. And here's why. When I started DCL, I started in the engineering department. Really, within my first year, the manager of the engineering department left, and I became head of the engineering department. I went to the owners and I was like, hey, I know you need a new director. I'll do it. They're like, aren't you like 15? Like, yes, but I can do it. They're like, okay, fine, give it a try. Worked out. Soon I became director of the graphics department as well. Then I became general manager. Then I became vice president and on and on and on. Okay, so I've really been in management for 24 years. And I have two sort of real sort of paths of management that I have learned from. The first is my parents. Both my parents were in management. So I was very fortunate in that I had parents that not only taught me, you know, right from wrong and how to treat people and all those different things, but they themselves were managers and always dealing with things. And I would hear from them, you know, how they solved problems and what they did and so forth. So that was, of course, my first and greatest sort of explanation of how to be a manager and how to work with people and so forth. The other was I got a front row seat to Coach Cav in the way that Coach Cav dealt with everybody that he had to deal with, all his players and coaches and so forth. So I know there are some athletes in this room. There are probably some people who aren't athletes. If you are an athlete, and you know maybe somebody on Zoom is, whatever, watch your coaches, okay? Your coaches, the way that they lead a team is so much like the working world, all right? So they have a group, maybe they got to choose that group, maybe they didn't, maybe they half did, okay? They have players who are excellent, they have players like me who are not excellent, and they got people in the middle. They have to develop that bottom end. They have to keep that top end as successful and productive as they possibly can. They have people from all different backgrounds that they're dealing with, okay? And they have to deal with whatever comes up. They have to play that game no matter what. Oh, it's 110 degrees today? Okay, well, we got to figure that out. What does that mean? Okay, we're going to have hydration problems. We're going to have this. Oh, it's like, 52 with driving rain. Okay, well, what does that mean? New change to the game plan. We just found this out. It wasn't supposed to rain. It's raining. Here we go. They're always making those adjustments as they're moving multiple groups through, as they're moving multiple groups of different people at different levels through, all for one goal. So about 5 years into DCL, I think I was general manager of Boston at the time, I realized I'm leading DCL as Coach Cav led UMass Dartmouth football. Like, that's how I'm sort of operating it, right? We got to keep our stars happy. We got to develop the other people. We got to, maybe we talk to people different. Maybe the way that one person needs to be led is different than the way another person needs to be led. Those are all things that you're learning from pretty much anybody around you. And if you do play sports, that is a great way to learn. So I can't recommend sports anymore. I just think it's a fantastic way to go. Then I played football, loved it. My son played football. I played for CM, which I don't like to brag, but they did go on a 29-0 run, undefeated, #1 team in New England for a long time there. And he had a bunch of kids. They were going like D1, BC, and Notre Dame. And I actually talked to a few of his buddies. I said, look, you could go to Notre Dame, but what if instead you came to UMass and you were a Corsair? To which they said, what is a Corsair? I said, it's a pirate with a hat. But I got JC and Aaron into UMass because I truly believe that it is a fantastic program. It's a fantastic place to do anything that you want to do. So I'll be promoting UMass. I'm trying to get a bunch of 24 kids there. I text Coach Sylvester all the time, like, oh, I heard this kid is like out. I heard he doesn't like his college, right? Because I want to get as many kids to here as possible. I think that it's a fantastic school. I think the way that Coach Sylvester right now coaches is fantastic for everybody. But even outside of athletics, I think the entire program is great. And I think that at the university level, you can do so many different things. So it's very important to sort of, once you guys are out of UMass, if you believe in it like I do when you're out, keep trying to get people to see what's going on down here, because sometimes people don't know. Another thing that UMass gave me, a wife. Okay. Now, I checked the tuition agreement today. That is not guaranteed. So sorry, Aaron, but I did get a wife from here. Okay. As I mentioned, there was, I had course problems, right? Like I couldn't take all my courses at the same time. So I couldn't take the engineering course at the same time I took the art courses. So second semester of my freshman year, my advisor said, okay, well, look, you can't take the chemistry that all the rest of the mechanical engineering kids are taking because you have art classes at that time. But I found another chemistry class that the nurses take, you can take that. And I was like, okay. So I go in, 100 nurses and me, right? Awesome. Even I can score in that environment. So there we go. Out comes my wife, Sharon, who was a UMass Dartmouth nursing candidate. Also, one thing that I just realized, that's the amphitheater right there. And I proposed to her on the amphitheater. That was the last time I was there. I proposed to her. So there we go. And spoiler, she said yes. So that worked out pretty good. So, we're a UMass Dartmouth family, right? We love UMass Dartmouth. Her sister went there. We're truly a UMass Dartmouth family. There we go. Okay, the future. So once you get to a certain point where you're like, hey, I've worked hard in my career. I kind of worked on myself. I was worried about myself. You get to a point that you see, well, we got to work as a team, right? So at DCL, in the state of Massachusetts, whatever we're doing, we're only as good as that team. And I know your coaches probably say this all the time. They say these kind of things to you and you don't believe it, But when you get old, you start to realize, wow, we are really a team, and developing people is the future. Helping people develop. I meant to move that slide earlier. That's what we're into, is helping people develop, right? You can, and I'm looking at you because you're probably going to work for us, you can have a career in the arts. Okay, you absolutely can. And one of the things that I do is I talk to a bunch of different schools about a bunch of different things. One of them is I talk to art schools and I say, yes, you can have a career in the arts. And I should probably talk to their parents, but I don't. I talk to the students and I say, this is a place you can do it. It's hard, but you can do it. And if you find the right place, you can sort of live that passion. Speaking of that, we have here 2 UMD alumni from the class of 2017, Sam and Hunter, who are lead fabricators for us. So Sam and Hunter graduated in 2017, which wasn't a long time ago to me, was a long time ago to you guys. You were in 6th grade, but nonetheless, they're recent grads. And now at DCL, they are lead fabricators for us. So they run projects. So Hunter did the Lincoln Center renovation. Sam does colleges all over the place. They just did Sony. They're doing all these big name projects. Each one of them runs a team of like 5 to 7 people. So they too are in management. They too were athletes. So that's all tying in together. But same deal. They're running people. They're making sure stuff gets done. They're doing project management and they do a fantastic job, right? And they came from Umass Dartmouth, and I will gladly hire any Umass Dartmouth grad moving forward because I know what this education brings and I know what sort of the students here are all about. And I'll be honest, they're hardworking students here. And we'll get to that in a second, but the hardworking aspect is one of the best things about UMass. So 2 DCL superstars, former UMass superstars, Sam and Hunter. All right, stand up so everybody can see you. There they are in the back. There's Sam and Hunter, superstars. They just took those pictures yesterday in front of my office. So I was like, do you have headshots? And they were like, no. I'm like, all right, hold on. SEGD, that is not me. I'm not every bald white guy. That's a different guy. So SEGD is the Society of Experiential Graphic Designers. That is the sort of professional organization that our group belongs to. Okay. So if anybody here or online is watching and they say, hey, I really want to get into that industry. I want to learn more about that industry. I want to design those environments. I want to design those sculptures, those signs, those corporate interiors. I want to do that. segd.org is the best way to do that. So that for us is sort of where all our clients belong to. I've been involved with SEGD for 20 years. I'm on the board of directors. I'm on the executive committee. I'm the treasurer. So like we're really deep into SEGD. And again, we believe in it because for us, we want DCL to keep going. We want to make sure that our client base, that our industry keeps going. So it all comes back to developing people and developing the future. And that's what we do in SEGD. That's what I focus on quite a bit, is young designers and young people sort of coming in. The Mass Business Roundtable. So I had a meeting today, and that's Governor Healy. Governor Healy was there at the meeting. And so this is a group of business people that are concerned with keeping Massachusetts competitive. Okay, so their goal is to make sure that Massachusetts stays one of the strongest states in the union, which it is through biotech, Joshua, right? And a bunch of other industries, but we have to make sure we stay there. So it's business people that talk about housing and transportation, the train that connects to the South Coast, that always comes up, all those different things. How can we connect different parts of the state? How can we deal with some of the problems that are facing the state? It's very tied into the state government and so forth. So another group that is focused on helping people and helping the future, that's sort of where our head's at as we go forward. STEM Advisory Council. So that's Lieutenant Governor Kim Driscoll. Lieutenant Governor Driscoll heads up the STEM Advisory Council. Earlier this year, Governor Healy and Governor Driscoll appointed me to the STEM Advisory Council. And what we do is we talk about STEM in schools. We go to a lot of elementary schools and high schools. I was at a high school last week. I have a high school coming to DCL in a couple weeks to tour through. And we're just showing students what we do in the arts and what we do in engineering, mainly in engineering, and how we use technology. So it's a lot of sort of STEM education and promoting STEM education. But I am more interested in STEAM. So every time they say STEM, I say STEAM, which they all find annoying, but I don't care. STEAM, STEAM, is science, technology, engineering, art, and math. Because I believe that art should be connected to engineering in everything we do, right? If we're going to make something, we want to make it good looking. If we want to, build a space, we make the space attractive. We make it someplace where people would want to be. We're combining the arts into everything we do in the engineering world. Therefore, I love STEAM and STEM, but especially STEAM. Okay, so some closing points. Things to think about if you're an undergrad here at UMass, as you're saying, okay, well, what am I going to do in my career? And maybe you're going to come work for us at DCL like you are, or maybe you're going to come do something different. Either way, challenge yourself. So looking back on my talk, I went up to Coach Cav and I said, can I play football? And I challenged myself. I really had no business doing that because I was really not very good, but it was a challenge. And now 25 years later, here I am talking about it as sort of one of the most foundational sort of things I ever did in my life, right? So I challenged myself even though I was not very good at it. And by the way, I didn't get good at it. So I was eventually a quarterback, but it's not like, oh, but then at the end, no, I was really bad the entire time. Develop strength. Everybody's good at something. Yes, that's a fun story where you play football and I wasn't good at it, but I still did it anyhow. Okay, but also do something you're good at because that's a lot easier. So if you're good at math, lean into math. If you're good with people, lean into working with people. Do what you're good at and develop those strengths. Work on those strengths and get better. If you are a math guy, learn about some crazy stuff. Learn about some of the complicated stuff. If you are good with people, work on that. Watch YouTube videos. Look at how different people say, hey, here's a way that I interact. Here are different things. Develop what you're good at. Focus, effort. Effort beats everything. I know that this is another thing that teachers and coaches and stuff tell you. Effort beats everything. If you try the hardest, you will win. Yes, if you are talented and you try the hardest, you have a leg up over everybody. But at the end of the day, you can outwork just about everybody. When I come in the morning, I get in at 7 a.m. Hunter's already there. Sam stays till 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night all the time. They work and they work and they work and they work and they work. And that's why even though they are very young, they are in charge of a bunch of people. They're in charge of a bunch of projects and they have come really far in their career because they outwork other people. And when you get into the working world, that is what everybody wants. Everybody wants you to be the one who tries the hardest and works the hardest. Uphold honesty. You got to be honest all the time. Even when it is easier to not be honest, you got to be honest. We're very fortunate at DCL. I've been there 25 years. I've worked with people for, all that time. I've worked with people 20 years, 15 years. I'm going to know everybody for a long time. I can't tell a lie because if you tell a lie once, you're a liar. And you need everybody who works with you to trust you and believe you and so forth. So I'm honest all the time, even when it's unpleasant, which is a lot. But nonetheless, you have to be honest. However, but fake it till you make it. So you say, wait, aren't those opposite things? Yes and no. So I mentioned that I was an engineer and the manager of the engineering department left and I was like, hey, I can do it. I didn't know that I could do it. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was like, I'll probably figure it out-ish. And I did. Even now, people come to us and they say, hey, can you do this project for us by this time? I'm like, wow, that project is awesome. It's super complicated. And that is not enough time. But yes, we can do that. I don't really know that we can do that. I'm guessing, but probably we'll find a way. We usually do. So fake it till we make it. As crazy as that sounds, that is a loophole. That is not lying. Just go ahead and dive in, work hard, and it'll probably work out. And if it doesn't, then try again. And then the last one is be nice. Okay. Again, you're going to work with people for a super long time. In the working world, all anybody wants is to come in, do their job, work with somebody who's like, not a pain in the ass, and like go home and do whatever they're gonna do at home. Like, hang out with their family or have a couple beers or, go on vacation, whatever they're gonna do. It's their outside life that gives them the most joy. They wanna come in, they wanna get stuff done and get out. If you work hard and you're nice to be around, people are gonna wanna work with you. And it doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter, none of that matters. Hunter and Sam are in the back. If I got you somebody who is super nice and worked hard, would you like that person? I don't always give them that. Sometimes I give them a variety of people who we're testing out. But nonetheless, if I did, that would be great, right? And you would be very happy that you were working with that person. And so that's a big key, is be nice. If you can be nice, then pretty good. There'll be days that you get mad and upset and, annoyed with stuff and so forth, so be it. But overall, be nice. Okay, and that's it. So that concludes our talk, unless anybody has any questions. Does anyone have any question? Yes, sir, that I've never met, that has my same name. What kind of a person do we look for and what kind of person is successful? So it really can be anything. So for as much as I'm saying, make sure you go to Umass, we actually don't necessarily look for any specific degree or whatever. We're looking for a background at something. One of the things that I like is if somebody is in the arts, right? And they're artistic and they love art and so forth, but they were also like a cashier at Stop and Shop. And I say that not only because I was a longtime cashier at Stop and Shop, but if you're a cashier, you have to get your drawer right. I don't know if anybody's ever been a cashier, but at the end of the day, it has to say like $231.15 or whatever. That means all during the day, you kept track of all that stuff. So going back to Hunter and Sam, they are both artists, right? Hunter was a photography major, Sam was sculpture and illustration, but they are good at keeping track of lots of different things. They're very organized. They make lists and then they check that list and then they double check that list. And then one part got moved, but they chased it down and they know where it went and it got moved and blah, 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 blah. And so people who are artistic, but good at keeping track of stuff, that's one of the things that we look for. Or if you've built giant, crazy stuff, that's also good, right? So anything like that, those are what historically have made the best people. We're also looking for people who want a career in the arts, but want to have like a 401k and benefits and pay raises and so forth. So, and that can be hard to find in the arts. So if that's something that appeals to people, that is also good. Any, yes, sir.
A while ago, what was your favorite material?
Yes.
Why not carbon fiber? Why would carbon fiber?
Oh, aluminum exists much more, and that's what makes it great. I mean, aluminum is very plentiful. Aluminum is very available. Carbon fiber is very expensive, and we make a lot of signs, and everybody wants everything to be as inexpensive as possible. And so aluminum is much more accessible, and it is much cheaper. Carbon fiber is very expensive, and we have a ton of aluminum. And if we don't use all the aluminum, we can save it and do other things with it and so forth. So carbon fiber, we have done, a couple things out of carbon fiber, but it's very hard to beat aluminum, right? It's really hard. Aluminum is great. We love it. Yes, sir. How did I get in contact with DCL when I was in college? That is a great question, number 7. So, are you 17 now? 16? No, that's good too. So when I was in college, it was the spring of my senior year. And I was like, I got to get a job, because even though I worked at Stop and Shop, I wanted to stop working at Stop and Shop and work somewhere else. No offense, Stop and Shop, but I had been there for a long time, since I was like 14, and it was time to move on. And so I applied to hundreds of places, and there was no internet. There was internet, but it was like coming on the scene. So that's the sound of it. Yes, exactly. So the internet was coming. So I printed out portfolios and who I was and resume, and I mailed it to hundreds of companies. And one of the things that I had in there, of all the things I did, this was the one that did it. I had a drawing of a can opener. It was an orthographic drawing. You know what orthographic drawing is? When we draw the front, we draw the side, we draw the top. It was an orthographic drawing of a can opener. And one of the owners of DCL opened it and saw that, and they were like, oh, we draw it orthographically. That's good. So they had just done some Universal Studios, so they were looking for art kids. And the combination of art and engineering was perfect for them because that's, as you can see, what we do. So they called me in, I had an interview, I wore a suit, it was like 200 degrees that day, I was like sweating, my hair was kind of like very thin at the time, and I like sweat right through it, I was very nervous, but I took a test. At the time, we had I didn't give you a test, but we had very complicated tests that we had to do. And I got the job right there, and I started the day after I graduated college. So I was really lucky in that, but I was also very diligent in that I just sent out hundreds of things, and I probably heard from 3 of them and got 1. So I hit it hard. Because again, effort beats everything. So there we go. But that was a good question, 16. Yes. Oh. No, it's okay. MIG and TIG, you'll be fine. Yep. Stick, we don't use stick too much, but yes, MIG and TIG and so forth. And we teach people how to weld. I mean, look, if you understand it and you understand how it works and you get the principles, fantastic. But we'll teach you how to weld. We'll teach you how to weld the right way. I mean, we go through it. We train people. Again, I'm looking for people who want to be there. I'm looking for people who want to work hard and, work with us long term. I like people who have worked with us for a long time. That's the best. So Hunter and Sam, even since, what do you guys, were you 17 or 18? You graduated in 17, but did you come in 17 or 18? Right in 17. Okay, they're shaking their head yes and no. They came at some time. But the point is, they've already worked here for 6 years. And so now I can say to them, hey, you know what it is? Remember like the round one you made for Sony? It's kind of like that, but like on the bottom, it's like more flat, kind of. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll go make it, right? That sort of vernacular where we're talking about things that easy, that saves us a lot of time and money. So if we can keep the people that we have and keep people that we know and trust for a long time, it's not only is it good to have the kind of environment we want to have, economically it's good. Like we save so much time and money just knowing each other really well and everybody knowing what we expect and what our clients expect and what the projects are. So that kind of familiarity is huge for us, right? So we will teach you what you don't know. So if you know TIG, we'll teach you MIG. And yes, we do both of them. We have some certified welders as well who do certified welding. Because like when you build a really big thing, they don't want it to fall down. Imagine if like the Disney thing fell down and the Mickey Mouse crushed all the kids and stuff. That would be horrible. So we want to make sure that doesn't happen. So we have certified welders, certified welding instructor. Josh is a certified welding instructor. So we do a lot of welding and teaching and so forth. So, but that is a good question too. Yes, sir.
What do you think is the best way to help deal with people, to interact with people in the most efficient, or to get along of different types and personalities?
Yeah, and so we have a lot of types and personalities, right? We have artists, and sometimes artists can be, sort of, they run hot and cold sometimes, and so we have to. Did you just laugh? We have to do that quite a bit, where we have to deal with different personalities. And there's going to be some people who are good at that naturally, like you're good at it. You can read people really well and you can understand what they're thinking and you can think, okay, well, this would be a good way to deal with people. And then there are some people who aren't. But I would say, number one, try to be honest, right? Just we can work through anything, even if we're honest, and just try to be nice. Like if we're nice to everybody and we're honest, we can work through most things. Right? There are obviously some things that we can't, but for the most part, we can get through anything. So it's a lot of listening. And when you first come into a new place, if you listen like a lot and don't talk a lot, that is much, much better. Do you like people who talk a lot or listen more? Listen, they said, right? Because you don't know anything, but we're glad to work with you. We're glad to teach you. But listen to what other people are telling you. Watch people, get to know people. And then after you're there for a little while, then, you can be more comfortable in sharing ideas and so forth. Nobody wants to hear your ideas on how we can improve on your first day, FYI. So, but it's easy for some people and for others, it isn't so easy. But just because you're not good at it doesn't mean you can't keep working to get better at it, right? I knew a kid here, Derek Afons. Coach, remember Derek Afons? He was Danny Vieira's friend, played with us for like 2 years. Big, giant kid, like sloppy looking kid. He's the smartest person I've ever met in my life. Like you would talk to him and you would think, oh man, I don't know about this kid. He was a math wizard. I've never seen in my life anybody who spoke math like Derek Afons. He was amazing. To this day, 25 years later, that kid blows me away because he was so good at math. And that's when I realized, wow, there are some people out there who like really vibe with math. And I am not one of those people. I can do it, but wow, are there people there who are just unbelievable in math? And different people have different talents. Now, Derek was incredible with math, and maybe there were other things that he had to work on that he had to sort of challenge himself in. Everybody might have those things. But that's also why we say lean into your strength, right? Like if you are super good at something, great, go into something where you're doing that and using that as much as possible. So, but that was a good question. Yes.
What is the biggest challenge or gap in their knowledge that you find transitioning from the classroom into work?
This is an excellent question. You don't go to bed on time. What? I don't get it. It's not like you're like at a rave or like, doing coke all night. You just like watch TV too late. Okay? As crazy as this sounds, the number one problem when you hire somebody out of college, we start at 7:30 every day. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Then we have Saturday, Sunday off. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And again, and again, and again, and again. And if you stayed up until like 2 in the morning, not even like partying, just like, watching TV or on your phone. And then it's August and you're on a computer and you're doing like a drawing and it's 2 p.m. and the drawing isn't really that exciting because you just like drawing squares. There is like no way on earth you're not falling asleep at 2 p.m. That is the biggest problem that new college grads face. How could you solve such a problem? Go to bed on time, which you probably won't. But nonetheless, that is what the big problem is. We are a marathon and you're used to a sprint, okay? In the arts, you guys have a big crit. It's get ready for the crit, get ready for the crit. And I worked all night. I worked like 4 days in a row. I worked day and I worked night. And I like have, bang energy and I do all these different things. And then we have our crit and I rest. And oh my God, it was so hard. Oh my God, I can't even believe how hard it was. But like, a week goes by after that for you to rest. We are like crazy big night. We're there till 10. Then we come back in at 7 the next morning. And then we're here again and again and again and again. So we are a marathon, not a sprint. College is sprints. You got your test, you got your exam, you got whatever, all really hard stuff. In fairness, might even be harder than like some of our hardest days. So the highs of your effort might be higher, or the lows, depending on how you look at it, might be lower. But we are all the time, always. You have a vacation, but that vacation might be in like 3 months and it might be for like, 5 days. So it's just different. And that's not just a DCL thing. That's an everybody thing. And that schedule is hard to get your head around when you graduate school. Now, that's a problem you can solve and we can work through it. But your question was one of the things that we see with new college grads, and that's it. Just that schedule is very, very different, and that's hard. And a lot of what you do is going to be boring. Like you're probably going to work on boring stuff when you start someplace. Like, yeah, we did Gillette Stadium, but you probably like wouldn't get Gillette Stadium. You would probably get like squares and squares taped to the wall with tape and silicone. And that's what you'd be drawing because you're new and you got to learn things. So the chances of you going to a new job and doing something boring, super high. Hence, you fall asleep if you stay up too late. As crazy as that sounds, there you go. So, yes, sir, Joshua. What is my number one motivation? So my number one motivation has to deal with money. Obviously, I want money. But furthermore, truly, my number one motivation is to get as much money for the people that work at DCL as I can do, right? So the people that are sort of in our crew that we know and we love, I want to get them as much as we can. I want to give them as big a raise as we can possibly give them. But as we said, everything comes down to team. And so at some point, we all need to do better for us to make more money. So working that team, we all have to reach that common goal. And when we reach that common goal, ideally we can all make more money. But truly what motivates me is A, helping others, as I said, and developing people and so forth. I really do like that. That's something I'm very passionate about. STEM education, all those different things, working with young people. I'm very passionate about that. But professionally, it is to get as much money as I can for the people that work at DCL. That is truly my goal. Like, how can we get more raises next year and the year after and the year after and the year after, so that we can keep everybody with us? Because when we find somebody we like, we want them there for a long time. So 2-part answer: helping develop young people and people coming up and the team concept, and then helping the people at DCL. Those are my 2 goals. And if we make cool stuff in the meantime that I can put on these pictures and talk about at these kind of events, awesome. I do like doing stadiums too. I do like NFL stadiums. Nicole, did you have a question? Oh, what a good boy, Zoom person. That's a great question. I bet that's Katie. So my greatest accomplishment, I would say my greatest accomplishment is the team that we have at DCL, right? We have a really good team and it's a really good place to work. And I felt like I had a big hand in sort of cultivating that and getting those people there and having that be a place where people can work and be happy and be artistic and so forth. I did also like doing the Gillette Stadium signs because I like the Patriots a lot and I live there, and now every time I drive by, I'm like, hey, we made that. I would have been mad if somebody else did. But my greatest accomplishment professionally is the people that work there. What was Katie's other question? Or the Zoom person? How did the industry change since I've been at DCL? Well, so technology changed. When we started, when I started, we were much more sign-based, sign and sculpture-based, right? So things that stuck to the wall, some of it lit up, but even then it would be like fluorescent tubes and so forth. And then shortly after that, LEDs came out. And then shortly after that, these kind of LED boards came out. We do a lot of this kind of work here. And so the technology has changed quite a bit. And our response to the technology has changed quite a bit because we do more and more tech all the time. Projection mapping, gestural sensing, those big LED jobs are a big thing. And then we do bigger and bigger things all the time. We do bigger projects that are physically larger all the time. However, I still really like the interior work that we do, hospitals and performance centers and so forth. I really like the interior work that we do as well, which is sort of like a throwback to what more of our projects were back in the day. So that was a good question. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
How important have you found networking in your career?
So networking is super important, especially depending on what you do. So more and more, I sort of help our project development team, which are our sales team, get jobs and sort of, so I'll introduce them and so forth. Networking is very important if you're looking to sort of move up or if you're in any kind of sales role and you want to know a bunch of different people. So I'm a big LinkedIn user. I have a bunch of followers on LinkedIn or a bunch of connections on LinkedIn, and I can use those connections to then schedule meetings. So if I'm going to Dallas and I'm like, I want to meet with the Cowboys, boom, I can usually get in there, or NFL teams or sports teams or anybody that I want to meet. I'm connected to enough people due to the networking that I've done so that I can get in and have these meetings. Now, maybe they like what I'm selling, maybe they don't, but to at least open the door, that sort of thing helps. So LinkedIn is huge. It exists for all of us. When I was in engineering school, the last semester, they were like, hey, by the way, there's this thing called MathCAD. I'm like, oh yeah, what does that do? Like, everything. Really? That is a tool that we did not know was available to us, but it is. LinkedIn is available to all of you to do connections and so forth. And if you're in school now, you can start your LinkedIn profile and start meeting people and get it developed and so forth. So networking is very important as you're looking for a job, especially, right? If you have a job, like Hunter and Sam shouldn't network with anybody. I don't want them talking to anybody here even, just like go back to DCL and don't talk to anyone. But no, if you're looking for a job, networking is very important. If you want to move up in your career or something, networking is very important. So there's another question. Yes,
I saw that you had Dennis on some of the other designs.
that is correct.
Are you partnering with them as well? Or you guys just work together a lot?
So we work together. So the actual way that we work at DCL is we don't design anything. We work for designers. Designers are our clients. That's how we get to do all this different work in all these different industries, because we work for the designers. The designers dream it up and they say, huh, can you guys make this? We say, yes, we can. So that's, you see that at the bottom of all our things, that is the designer who work for it. So every week I post on LinkedIn something that's in our shop. Today I posted Hunter was doing something for a job we have for FINRA. It's with a group Interior Architects. And so I said, oh, here's Hunter's putting stuff down. I just shot a video of it. Hunter's putting stuff down and it's for Interior Architects. And then they were very happy that we posted it. They reposted it and it's got like 4,000 views already. And so that is showing sort of the world what we do and how we do it, and showing the world what Interior Architects does. And everybody's like, wow, that's a really interesting way that Interior Architects did this. There's this very cool thing of like positive space and negative space with acrylic slats. It was very cool. So it shows their work, which they are our client, and it shows what we do. So we partner with them. They might not actually be our client, or they might not pay us, but they bring us into the job. So I talked about SEGD. That is the organization that all those designers are in, which is why a group like us would be in that organization as well. So we work with them. Yes, partner slash sort of like a client relationship. So any other questions? Okay, well, thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate you coming out tonight and hearing about it. Thank you. Okay, so if anybody wants to look through shop drawings or take a card or something, feel free to. Thank you.